And President Donald Trump has also said that the U.S. has achieved regime change in Iran.
We have things understood now with Iran. It's been nasty. They've lost their leaders. They've lost, and it really is regime change. You know, we didn't set out for regime change, but by the fact that we're dealing with a totally different group of people than we were at the beginning. And frankly, I find them to be much more reasonable. I actually find them to be smarter, but I find them to be much more reasonable. This is regime change. One regime is gone, another regime is gone, we're dealing with the third. Pieces of it, because some of them are gone too.
And joining me now here in the studio is Ambassador Joey Hood. He's a former senior U.S. diplomat who served as ambassador to Tunisia and as the acting director of Iranian affairs at the State Department. Ambassador, good to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Donald Trump says he's achieved regime change in Iran. He says they're smarter, more reasonable people. He said it's even the third regime that he's dealing with now. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'd have to take his word for it that they're smarter and easier or more reasonable to deal with because I'm obviously not in direct contact with them. And I do know that based on my experience as a diplomat, that we do have a lot of contact, even on a daily basis, with the government in Iran on all sorts of issues. And right now, that must be even more intense.
But is a regime change going from the father to the son as Supreme Leader?
You know, this is an unprecedented situation in modern history. Usually in conflicts, you don't see this sort of thing. There's maybe an assassination of one leader here or there, but to see so many leaders taken out at roughly the same time, that truly is different. And so just because Donald Trump said it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. You know, it is that the members of the regime have changed. What has not apparently changed is the ideology of the regime and its approach to the rest of the world. And in fact, I would argue that it looks like they have become less flexible, and that's understandable because now they're new in their positions. They have to look over their shoulders at the other guy because they know if they appear weak to the others, then they are then to be criticized. And what ends up when you're in a weak position as an Iranian politician, what happens to you? Where is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the former president? Where is former President Mohammad Khatami? Where is former Prime Minister Mir-Hossein Mousavi? I could go on, but you get my point. They're all under house arrest. They cannot speak to international media. They can't speak to even so-called independent media inside Iran.
So, Ambassador, let's talk about another thing that Donald Trump has said. He has repeatedly said that Iran is a threat and that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But U.S. intelligence assessments, the IAEA, none of them actually said that Iran was, in fact, developing a nuclear weapon. From your time at the State Department, I mean, you were in charge of Iranian affairs at the State Department. Was your understanding that Iran was indeed developing a nuclear weapon, so much so that it was a threat to the United States?
Well, certainly at different times in history, they have absolutely had, military ambitions for their nuclear program.
But ambitious is one thing. Did they actually develop a nuclear weapon?
No, obviously they didn't. As far as we all know, they haven't developed a nuclear weapon itself. However, they have given every indication that they were trying to get to the point where they were just on the threshold of being able to develop one. So to really shorten the breakout time, as it's called. And there is a few things that have been very, very troubling here. So even after supposedly the former Supreme Leader said in around 2003 that he issued a fatwa and he said no more, we're not going to develop a nuclear weapon. It's just against our ideology, against our religion. Then the world discovered secret military nuclear sites in Natanz and Fordow. Why? Why were those there if they were not trying to develop some sort of capacity?
But do you think that Donald Trump has overstated the threat from Iran in terms of a nuclear weapon?
I really don't think that Donald Trump or any of the previous presidents who've been really, really concerned about this problem have overstated it. Look what they do to their own people. We just saw Iranians rise up in their thousands and they're millions, in fact, in December and January, demanding change from their regime. And what did they get? Tens of thousands of them killed in the streets and in their homes. So if they're willing to do that to their own people, imagine what they're willing to do to others in the region if they have that sort of capability.
Ambassador Joey Hood, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.